The energy signature. I thought of that title because I'm talking about to give is to live, and we often spend a lot of time protecting our energy. You notice that? Sometimes I get overwhelmed. Sometimes I get burnout if I give too much, or I go too fast, or I go too long, or I play too hard, or I push too hard. Energy. It's something that we always seem to try to collect more of, or to renew within ourselves. There's something within us that knows that it's there, it's always accessible, that it's infinite. But we're always trying to manage it and balance it, and we're trying to organize it so that we have enough, so that we feel good. There's the Energizer Bunny. There's the energy saver, right? Savor energy, not save energy as if we can expend it and it will never be replenished, but savor energy. Do you savor your energy? What does savoring our energy look like? And what has it got to do with creating an energy signature in life? One of the things that Jean Houston talked about as well was her time with Mother Teresa. And she said, I was quite young at the time when I spent my days with her. And she said, I watched her and watched her and watched her and watched her, and there was like this abundance of energy and enthusiasm, this constant outpouring of energy, of giving, of loving, all the time. And one day she said, I got up enough nerve to say, Mother Teresa, how do you do this? How do you do it? She said, do what? She said, how do you keep giving so much of yourself all the time? You are tireless. You are fearless. She said, I'm in love. We know that one, don't we? I'm in love. And so Jean was, Jean was Jean. By the way, her father was a comedian. She was raised in a Catholic school, and he used to give her questions for the nuns every morning. I found so much out about her. It was great. Anyway, so in her little impishness, she said to Mother Teresa, you're in love. Who is it? Of course, Mother Teresa came back and she said, Jesus. And she kind of went, And then Mother Teresa said, I am so in love with my beloved that I do everything in his name. And I guess that's why my beloved is so in love with me. So what she was trying to say is, of course, I am always provided for. Because the place from which I give is not from this idea of who I am or who I am not from this ego, this personality, this idea of what I need to be or who I have to be or what I just love. And that's really why I wanted to talk about to give is to live. Because when we give of ourselves fully, including, both of your courses touch on that, these interactions with each other, these agreements that we make, conscious and subconscious, mostly subconscious. Most of our agreements we make with people are from that place of our subconscious mind where we're not aware all the time, because we kind of go on automatic with our old patterns, our old expectations, our old needs, our old perceptions, right? And then this idea of our agreements are made also from the parts of us that we give forward, and the parts of us that we hide, that we hold back, right? So we're kind of operating like this on one leg. How can you constantly give and know that there is an infinite source of supply from which to give energy? Energy is always, it's all it is. Everything is energy anyway. And we're just a part of that energy. So we need to understand that law of circulation. We need to understand that as we give forward, it is replenished. We allow it to move out, and we're constantly filled. But we don't think that, because we think that we are separate from the source of energy. Our needs tell us that. I need this. What do I need? I need something I don't have. How do I get that? Isn't that the thought? How do I get that? rather than how do I give that? Well, of course, get that is more logical, because if we feel we don't have it, then how can we give it? So we're out to get it. Oh, fellow seekers on this path, right? Rather than just taking that breath and moving our energy into alignment with causation, with consciousness, with that level of that infinite indwelling intelligence where all things are already made, from which we can freely pick, freely choose. From what? Where are we choosing? How are we choosing? Are we choosing from what I need I don't have? Because that will lead us into this idea of manifestation in form, in the physical world. It'll keep us focused on the physical world. Or are we leaning into it from that place of knowing that everything is already within us? What am I going to choose to reveal and experience today? Totally different place. Our energy signature is created from our consciousness. Wherever our consciousness leads is what is going to be remembered when we walk away and we leave an interaction. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, therein in the midst am I. So what is this midst? What is this I am? It's all about consciousness. It's about infinite possibility. It is about the field of possibility. I'm reading a book right now called, it's a spiritual writer's handbook. There's actually something I haven't shared with the community yet. I guess maybe this is as good a time as any. Yes, I am too writing my first book. I laugh because we all have a book in us, you know, we all have several books in us. But anyway, I've set a timeline and I'm training and I'm working with someone and blah, 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 and you know, it's going to happen. And so I'm reading this book about how to write a spiritual book. It's very different than writing other books. Because we have a responsibility to our readers that a lot of other types of writers do not. And what I'm learning is very it's kind of an analogy to what I'm talking about. When we're in spiritual relationship with each other, especially in community, well, anytime. If we are looking at another person like God, if we are coming from the place of consciousness, knowing that there is that commonality between us, and we see that beautiful sacred like Mother Teresa could, that's the only way she could keep giving. She saw God everywhere. There wasn't anything she did where God was not. So therefore, it also helped to replenish that energy system. Because when she thought on that magnitude from consciousness, there was no separation and there was no lack. There was always that regeneration. So as she was that thing, she was regenerating all the time. And so this writer's handbook talks about when we write, we have a spiritual responsibility to our readers. And it's not just about giving the creative gifts that we have to give, which we've often heard about. Just be that which you were born to be. Be fully expressed. Give your gifts. Well, that's true, but that's part of it. The other part is be aware of the impact, not responsible for, but we have a responsibility to be aware of the impact that we are making when we connect with another. When God connects with God. Our responsibility, our awareness is about seeing the God in another and not just feeling separate, so it's about us and the impact we're making. It's more about the impact we're making on them. Does that make sense to you? How are they receiving us? How our impact, because there's only one in the room anyway. So when we relate to someone, we can say, oh, it's their stuff. Or they're relating from their filter, right? We can say that. And we can walk away from many relationships and interactions which don't feel good. And we don't have to take it on because it's not our stuff. Well, it is our stuff, right? Because there's only one. Which means if I'm having a conversation with Maureen and Maureen doesn't respond to me in a way I'm hoping she will respond to me so that I can feel good about my interaction, and I walk away carrying that energy, I am responsible for the energy signature that I am leaving behind as I walk away. Now, it doesn't mean that I have to browbeat Maureen and bring her to the place in our connection where she is going to respond in kind, so that I can see my intention reflecting in her, because that isn't the way it works. We don't often see our intention reflected in someone by the way they look at us, by the way they respond, by what words come out of our mouth. But our responsibility is to be connected to consciousness, to lean into that place where all creation begins, so that we know if there isn't what we hope we will get, we still feel good about what we gave. And we can come clean and we can walk away clean. Right? And we can leave that person to be where they are in their exploration of their soul and their energy. So we also have a responsibility, this book says, to the reader, or the one that takes our thoughts and our words and our stories and our own personal experience that we must speak from only. We must be responsible to support, not only to engage, but to support them in the unfoldment of their journey, which also asks us to step away a little bit from what we wish to be seen as, who we wish to be known as, the legacy we want to leave, the value we think that we are, that we have on this earth, or the difference that we think we've come here to make. So we remove ourselves from this I, and we move ourselves into the I am, that one with eternal beauty, grace, love, intelligence, joy. And we see it everywhere. Who is there? By Rumi. Someone knocked at the door of the beloved, and a voice from within inquired, "Who's there?" He answered, "It is I." And the voice said, "This house will not hold me and thee." So the door remained closed. Then the lover sped away into wilderness and fasted and prayed, and after a year he returned and knocked again on that door. And the voice behind the door again demanded, "Who is there?" And the lover said, "It is thou," and the door was open. You know, that's kind of what a practitioner does. A practitioner in religious science, the one who knows the spiritual truth of life in their own mind when another comes to them for assistance or support, comes from this place. Instead of this scientific model of upward causation, where matter affects matter that I started talking to you about, without anything behind that matter, nothing within that matter of a greater intelligence, that unseen intelligence. When you come from that place and try to work backward, you come from the problem and try to find the solution. The problem there is you're looking at the problem. Right? You're focused on what you want to change. But Amit Goswami was talking in terms that we talk about in Science of Mind, where you have to come from causation in which the field of possibilities exists. And when you align your own mind in that place, when you start to move your own energy and make your energy signature, that presence of who you are, not what you say necessarily, but the presence of being as that light of possibility, and you shine that upon whatever that issue or condition is, you can see how it becomes very minuscule, because you're looking at it from a greater truth, a greater field of possibility. And so as we're creating our energy signature, we create from that way of thinking. One of the things that gets in the way is that need thing. I need. And when I think I lack, I'm going to look out here to get me something that I'm going to replace so I can fill that need up from the physical form, which A, keeps us focused on the material, and B, doesn't really allow us to understand what really the laws of manifestation in our life are. It's more about the process than it is about the outcome. And if we can align with the abundance that already exists in our own mind within the source of supply within us, then we are tapping into a greater field of possibility instead of what our own knowledge base thinks is going to be the solution to the problem, or thinks what is going to plug the hole or the void that we fill or that we want to fill because we're lacking something. Right? Peter Hughes wrote a story called The Dewdrop. As the sun rose, a dewdrop became aware of its surroundings. There it sat on a leaf, catching the sunlight and throwing it back out. Proud of its simple beauty, it was very content. Around it were other dewdrops, some on the same leaf and some on other leaves around about. The dewdrop was sure that it was the best, the most special dewdrop of them all. Ah, it was good to be a dewdrop. The wind rose and the plant began to shake, tipping the leaf. Terror gripped the dewdrop as gravity pulled it towards the edge of the leaf, towards the unknown. Why? Why was this happening? Things were comfortable. Things were safe. Why did they have to change? Why, oh why? The dewdrop reached the edge of the leaf and it was terrified, certain that it would be smashed into 1,000 pieces below, sure that it was its end. The day had only just begun, and the end had come so quickly. It seemed so unfair, and it seemed so meaningless. It tried desperately to do whatever it could to cling to the leaf, but it was of no use. Finally, it let go, surrendering to the pull of gravity. I don't like that part as I age. Down, down it fell. Below there seemed to be a mirror. Down, down it fell, and below there seemed to be a mirror. A reflection of itself seemed to be coming up to meet the dewdrop. Closer and closer they came together until finally, and then the fear transformed into deep joy as the tiny dewdrop merged with the vastness that was the pond. Now the dewdrop was no more, but it was not destroyed. It had become one with the whole. Sure saw yourself in that story, eh? How many times a day do you see this in your story? Not only when we resist and we are afraid of change, but when we look to manifest something on this physical plane by assumption, by controlling, by manipulation, by trying to get, by trying to force, by any of those ways, other than just allowing ourselves to be pulled, not necessarily by gravity, but to be pulled by the mystery. I like that one a lot better. To be pulled by the mystery. We step into it all the time, and when we step into that, we step into the quantum field of possibility, where everything exists, and it ain't outside us. Right? It's right here. I like being a dewdrop. I like having my place. It's good. I got to see it yesterday again. I was in that big room, and I was sharing with Maureen on the way down here. Another member of our community was there with me, and she said, "Oh, I'm shameless. I can go up to anybody. You know, Jean Houston, Emmett, just talk to them. They're just people." And I noticed, you know, I would sit at the table. It's my old pattern. It's my old pattern. I don't know. I'm kind of shy. Unless I have a role to play or something to do, I'm not that comfortable. So I'm not that predisposed to walk up to Jean Houston and put my arm around her and say, "Hi, how's it going?" It's like, it's the farthest thing from my mind. I would rather observe and appreciate and honor and watch. But that's my old pattern. I forget that where 2 or 3 or more gathered, in the midst I am. I sometimes look at people and look at them as their personality, you know, their unique individuality as human beings. And I forget that they have this wellspring of this energy signature always within them that connects us from time immemorial. So when you're creating your energy signature, it's nothing you have to do. It's something you already are. That is more profound, more vast, and has more potential. It is constantly filling us, renewing us, and regenerating us all the time. It is that unseen seen, that unknown known. But you know what? It isn't that unknown because we feel it and we sense it. So that's the part. That's the part I'm personally working on now. I'm working on sensing and integrating, not this idea, this intellectual idea of consciousness and mass or spirit and matter. I am working, leaning into consciousness, which is not over here. It's not over here and matter's over here. We got this idea because we live in a world of duality, this and that, up and down, right and wrong. This ebb and flow of life that we go through is about moving in and moving out. It isn't up or down. There are no opposites. There are just two different vibrations on the same continuum of the same thing. So that's what I'm doing. I'm leaning into that allness and that consciousness of who I am, including that wonderful ego, including everything. Letting it all melt like that dewdrop into the pond. To see the mirror when I look out and I see Peter and I see Joan. I don't see Peter and Joan. I appreciate Peter and Joan. But I see them as the pond. Where two or more are gathered, we need to deepen that energy signature. Not work at it. Just recognize it. Because we are like a living prayer. As we walk on this earth, we are leaving the trail of energy. And we have that freedom to decide not so much what it's going to look like, but what it's going to feel like. Yeah. I love my beloved. I'm in love. I'm in love. I'm in love. I'm in love. I only know love. Perhaps that's why my beloved is in love with me and is constantly providing for me. This is the journey that we're all on together. What a wonderful journey. And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you.